I'm Sarah, a tutor at Accountancy Learning, and in this video I'll take you through the Tax Processes for Business Finance Act 23, AAT Sample Paper 2, Task 7. So this task is about the principles of payroll, and we've got parts A to C to answer. Part A then, we're asked to match the definitions below with the correct term. And the options that we've got in our drop-down boxes, I have put up here for us to work with. So the total earnings of an employee for a pay period after tax-free deductions. So the deductions are what we take off prior to applying any tax. So this one is going to be our taxable gross pay. So once our tax-free deductions have come off of our gross pay, then the tax is then applied. The total earnings of an employee for a pay period. So what overall are they earning? Not necessarily what are they being paid physically, but what are they earning? So that's going to be known as our gross pay. So that's before any deductions. The amount earned by employees per hour. So what rate are they being paid? So that's going to be a pay rate. And then finally, the amount an employee receives in their bank for a pay period after all deductions have been made. So that's what actually ends up in your bank account, which is known as our net pay. Moving on to part B then. So part B is identify whether the following statements about registering as an employer are true or false. So only businesses are required to register as employers and not individuals. So this is false, as everyone who employs staff must register as an employer, regardless of whether they're a business or an individual. Registration as an employer cannot be more than 2 months before employees are first paid. So for that, there's some handy reference material with reference material 22 here. And it says you cannot register more than 2 months before you start paying people. So that would make the statement true. Moving on then, we are now given some information, and it says Sunday's Bakery is a partnership and it employs one member of staff, Desi, who reduced his hours from January 2024. Sunday's Bakery pays HMRC monthly and is entitled to the employment allowance. So that's key for us here. Below are some details from Desi's payslips for December 2023 and January 2024. And you can see all the information that we are given here. Importantly, don't miss the line here. The employment allowance for Sunday's Bakery for December 2023 is £199 and for January 24 is £33.40. So that's some extra information. Again, with this question, you can click in the references section on the right-hand side to hold that information on screen whilst you have the question on the other side of your screen to save you scrolling up and down. So part C then is complete the table below to show the taxable gross pay and net pay for Desi and the amount payable to HMRC by Sunday's Bakery for December 2023 and January 2024. Now we must enter all figures to 2 decimal places, so that's really important. And any amounts repayable from HMRC should be shown as a negative figure using a minus sign. So if there's anything that needs to come back from HMRC, we need to enter it with a minus sign. So let's have a look then. So December. Taxable gross pay is the first element in our table. So taxable gross pay is going to be the gross pay minus any tax-free deductions. So for that, we're going to be looking at our gross pay, and then we're going to be having a look at the employee's pension contributions, because these are deducted before any tax is applied. So for December then, we'll have 2,200 and minus the £90 for the pension, which gives us a taxable gross pay of £2,110. And remember, we're doing 2 decimal places, so pop the 0.00 in there as well. Net pay then. So our net pay is always going to take off all of our deductions. So that's going to include our income taxes being deducted, the employees' national insurance, employees' pension, and a student loan repayment here as well. So our calculation in full then will be our gross pay, and then we're going to take off the tax, the NI contributions, the pension, and the student loan to give us the net pay of 1,727, and remember, to 2 decimal places, 0.36. Now finally, amount payable to or from HMRC. So looking at the top here, we are going to be paying across income tax, both lots of national insurance contributions, so both the employee and the employer's contributions, and the student loan as well. So we're going to have our tax amount. We're going to add in the 2 lots of national insurance contributions and the student loan. And before we go any further, we're going to have a look at the employment allowance. So for December is £199. So we can take that off, which means we owe £382.64. So January then, we now need to repeat that same procedure looking at January. So this time, we've got gross pay is 1,000. So for our taxable gross pay, it's going to be 1,000. And again, there's still a £90 pension contribution from DESI. So we can take off the £90 there. And then that's going to give us £910 for our taxable gross pay. Net pay then, so again, we're going to go through this same process, but this time we need to be careful because we've actually got a negative income tax. So that means that there's income tax coming back to DESI. So this time we are going to do 1,000, and now we're going to add back in that £27.60. Now there's no national insurance contributions for the employee. We're going to take off the £90 for the pension, and there's no student loan repayment there either. And that gives us our £937.60. And then the amount payable to or from HMRC. So again, we're going to be looking at these 4 options in orange here. So this time we're going to have a negative figure. We're going to have the 2760, which is coming back. But we still need to pay the employer national insurance contributions over. There's no employee national insurance contribution and there's no student loan for January. But we do have the allowance of £33.40 that we can take off, which gives us minus £27.60. So we will pop that in our answer as a minus figure to 2 decimal places. And that's the end of task 7.